Alright, well, my mouth is still a little warm from that salsa. It was pretty good stuff. I mean, you know me, I like chips and dip. So what are we doing now? Where's this leading? Everything we've done this week is culminating further and further to a point where we can present an adventure. Now, it won't be the Humblewood adventure, the 1 through 5, that is offered in the supplement, because I want you to take a look at it. However, we've gone through, and after creating characters, we've now distilled the characters down into this series of prompts. And as a dungeon master, we can sit back and say, "Oh, this is perfect." I was really worried, or I was on the fence between two villain ideas, or I didn't know who the quest giver would be, or even a follower. If there's 4 people but they want to play with 5 or something, you can have someone tag along as a sidekick or something. What's your plot? Just 2 words: toxic love. Sing it, Coffee. Well, it sounds like if you want an experience point, you got to know it by tomorrow, Coffee Cat. Alright, so what we had talked about in the last segment, there's an outcast mentor, or even an author, who taught him how to survive in the forest floor. That could very well be the friend of Rena. If Rena ends up running away, maybe the leader or the lieutenant that could be the villain sent this person out and, ended up not finding Rena. But during the time away, ran into Destro and was able to, help him. Even if it was just give him like a bandit survival book, or they traveled for a while, and things took their course. So I really like the concept of this bandit intermediary, especially because this bandit can hold, might hold this crushing secret of Rena's, and could very well be universally played into a lot of the other concepts that we have. So I'm going to go here to our NPC worksheet, and we don't really have a name just yet for this character. However, for the occupation and history, she is a bandit in good standing. What would be a good... I mean, we're talking about names and whatnot. What would be a good bandit gang name for this? Do you want to make it something... You want to make it something a little bit more silly, like a Team Rocket Pokemon? Is that the theme that we want to go with? Is this going to be something more like, like Derek's Ne'er-Do-Wells, and so the bandit gang is actually named after the leader? Or is this, or is it going to be more of a concept like the coffee looters or something like that? But if you have an idea for the name of the gang from which our PC escaped and we are making our NPC, throw some ideas out there. What's the worst case we happen? We kind of mishmash some together. So with the X gang. And serves directly under the lieutenant. While also being noticed by the leader for being a good friend to his or her protege, Rena. She saw Rena push a young Corvum over the side during a roost raid. And inadvertently ended up finding and helping him sometime later. Nice. Easy step, huh? Now, for our NPC appearance, whether we're referencing Humblewood or not, oh, we have a cat. In the Dungeon Master's Guide, in Chapter 3, there are some solid rules, and we're going to be referencing these for creating an NPC. Now, I will say, in Humblewood, there is a list of non-player characters. Right? You want an average birdfolk farmer? Or do you want a named character that shows up in the world? There are pre-generated stat blocks and concepts for you already in this campaign setting. You know, you need to throw some birdfolk militia at the party because they're running away from something. And also, by the way, more beautiful illustrations. You know, here we have Trevor of the Spring Path, which is something that you add on to, right? As they present them, you just take... You take the Birdfolk Skirmisher, and you add these stats. Now, I haven't read the NPCs, because that's more... again, that's stuff I want you to read and enjoy. A monster stat block isn't necessarily going to... you know, I didn't think it would be compelling for the player options. There is also a post... Oh, and by the way, they had a, Corvum Assassin or a Corvum Necromancer. But they did have an area here where... there we go. If you're creating NPCs and you go to the monster manual and you look up just average guard... or, you know, or something along those lines. You have an idea for maybe the class or a background, or you just have a basic idea and you want to put a quick template on it. This area has the mechanics for creating NPCs like that. Now, what we're doing isn't necessarily going to get into the nuts and bolts of this NPC creation. How apropos. It's here, and you can reference it if you want to make your own stat blocks, such as a Vulpin Captain or a Vulpin Noble, the Corvum Necromancer, things like that. So we're not going to get too lost here. We're going to go back to the Dungeon Master's Guide. We're going to create the concept of the character. And from there, we can add the physicality. Because, you know, a Corvum's a Corvum. Okay. But what about this one, if we rolled a Corvum? What about this Gerbine? What about this, I think Luna were doves. And we're going to develop the uniqueness. I'm a human being. There's, you know, what, 5 billion of us right now? Maybe more, 6. Have we breached 6 yet? You know, so being a human being, yes, we certainly hold, you know, humanity and human rights dear. Though, just because I'm a human doesn't mean that I'm necessarily special. However, you're probably not drawn to this channel because you see a human on camera. Arguably, the cats are probably getting more love than I do. It's the personality. It's the expression. It's the scraggy facial hair. The things that I enjoy that I bring to the channel to share with you all is what is applied to me as a human being. And then we can interface on the things that we either like or we don't like. And we're going to fill that in now. So I'm going to scoot this over. And we also have, look at that, a handy dandy dice roller, huh? So what is something about the appearance of this NPC? Let's roll a d20. We rolled a 14. We have braided beard. We have a braided beard or hair. And of course, if we roll a birdfolk character, we can easily translate that. Because it's clearly a fake beard. Now, what about this NPC's abilities? We could very well say, look, if they taught our player character how to dodge and weave, we could just automatically manufacture decks. But why not see what happens if it's not, right? 1 in 3. So actually, the high is strength. The low is con. Now, strength, a high strength could be a 20 strength NPC. And therefore, dex could be 18. It's not the highest. It's there, certainly enough that you could dodge out of the way of a fireball with, pretty good accuracy. Low is con. We have someone who's powerful, brawny, strong as an ox, which in this setting kind of takes on a new meaning. Constitution weak, we're sickly or pale. So what happened? Right? This is good. This is a good prompt. What happened to this character? We're someone who's strong, strength and dex, but our constitution is low. Is it a curse or a poison? Is it just that just because you're strong doesn't mean you are resistant from getting sick, or you don't have allergies, or you can't, you could be super swole, but you just can't take a hit too well. You went more for sculpting your body than like reinforcing it, or you've done it for show, maybe not for your core muscle groups or whatever the current term and trend is. Now, a talent for this bandit NPC. Let's roll a d20. We rolled a 3. Unbelievably lucky. This could very well play into the story. And in its own way, maybe that's how the party is somewhat drawn together through this unbelievable luck that the NPC might not even understand he or she has. Next up, a mannerism. We rolled another 3. What are the odds? 5%. That's if you take the 3 alone. If you want to go back-to-back 3, then it's less. Particularly low or high voice. You know what? We're going to roll odds or evens. Odds low, highs, evens high. Evens high. A particularly high voice. So you got this. Bane might be a good. Bane from Batman might be a good example of a high strength, low con character. But you have someone who's a particularly high voice, so this person rolls up on you. And everyone's like, "Yes, chief. Yes, chief." And the tallest, biggest person here goes, "You can count on me to do the best that I can." How does this NPC interact with others? This is generally, there's probably going to be an exception made for Rena, if not also for Destro. We rolled an 8. What are the odds? We are hot-tempered. Rena, not again! Rena, what's going on? Rena, I thought we were friends. you could be friends with someone and they absolutely have a hot temper. Maybe that's what helps forge the bond of your friendship, because, you know, they say the hotter the fire, the harder the steel. And if you're there because maybe Rena, who does seek, actually this works out super well, uncannily well. Rena seeks compromise. Rena seeks reunification of people. She doesn't want strife. And so here we have the friend who is hot-tempered. And they get along in a very yin-yang-like fashion. Now, what's some useful knowledge? Well, useful knowledge concerns Destro. Now, if there's anything else, this is a good generic black box that you as a dungeon master can fill in. You know, the party doesn't know what this NPC knows. And so if it's convenient, especially if we have a very socially fluid NPC, if it's convenient, the NPC can drop a lore bomb, send them on their way on a quest, because there's some inside knowledge that this NPC picked up. Now, what about our ideal? You recall from backgrounds that you have ideals, bonds, and flaws as a player character. If you're doing this this worksheet style, and I don't even want to say quick NPC generation, like it's not meaningful. I think it is, and it's giving us a good idea of who this person is. You know, whether this is a bird person or a deer person or whatever else, that isn't as relevant as who is the person, not what is the person. You know, we are human beings, not human doings. You know, we do a bunch of stuff. That doesn't necessarily define you, but who are you? Who? The ideal is going to be rolled on 2d6. 4 and 5. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have a chaotic ideal that's number 5. No limits. What that's telling me is whether or not we make this ambitious lieutenant as the villain, the friend is along for the ride and, you know, knows who, you know, I know who butters my bread, and I'm going to support the lieutenant. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be a great ride. And it's going to end in, you know, in bounty and glory, or it's not. But I'm not going to miss my chance. And so in that swirling chaos, that is when this NPC could have gone out to be sent for, to look for the missing raccoon. Could stumble across someone who would later become that raccoon's friend. You know, maybe this person ends up actually getting kind of a sideways D or a promotion into being the lookout to replace Rena. But is maybe more of a high-ranking lookout. And it's just that he or she spends some of the lookout time looking out for a friend. But no limits. Ambitious, not evil. Yes, this person may be supporting a very selfishly ambitious. So we can condense that as evil, but don't cringe too hard at that, Derek. I know that evil is a lot more, you know, subtle or varied than just, you know, saying, you know, you're serving the bad guy. But here we have someone who has, you know, this personal ambition. But it's not at the expense of other people nearly exclusively. Well, I credited you with the notion, and if people, look, if any of you out there want to talk about evil, Derek can answer all your evil questions. Including, should you feed Vitae to a baby? Now, we also have a bond. We're all a part of the world in some way. And even if you are remote and you hermetically seal yourself away, your bond is the cave. Or your bond is found everywhere. I'm going to roll a d10. 5. Captivated by a romantic interest. Ah, what if we have now just created the romantic interest between the NPC and the PC, which is even more of a pinch. Especially if the NPC is constantly coming and going. Hey, Grimvex, thank you so much for re-upping your sub. And on that similar note, depending on how many people are you know, if people add or drop off, I think we're looking at around a base 5 boxes to give away on Wednesday. It'll be more with more subs, less with less, and of course, people might end up throwing something into the community pool as well. But right now, we're looking at about 5 boxes to give away on Wednesday. But yeah, Grimvex, welcome. So is our romantic interest the player character? And is this why this NPC continues to flit? I was going to say flirt, but that too. Flit in and out of this PC's life and with the other people with whom she's traveling. All right, so now what about a flaw or a secret? Because you know what? We all have them. We rolled a 7. Has a powerful enemy. Who would the powerful enemy be? Probably not someone who we might consider to be a villain from the player character's perspectives. This could end up delving into the supernatural, right? If we have someone who's chaotic and has no limits, what if we're dipping into something more fiendish? Now, of course, that could also create a link, a more direct link to our Gerbine, who has the Infernal Pact. Because this NPC ran afoul of the patron. It's a possibility. You know, the enemy of my friend isn't always your enemy, especially if you have this this lifestyle change between going from being a bandit and not. Is the powerful enemy even not a bad guy, such as we might consider it? What if this person is just honestly on every wanted poster everywhere? And because of that big build and an unmistakable whatever, you know, there's really nowhere this person can go that they won't be recognized. Unless we're talking like the extreme remote countryside. Maybe like Willow Chitter. Oh. We're tying this together. Now, Derek uses a lot of character maps, and we're kind of doing that here conceptually, but I'm writing it out in words. More of a stream of consciousness style, as we're following the prompts. So now we have our character's character, right? Our non-player character's character. And if you do find yourself needing to generate more details or more stats, then it's easy enough to do so. And in fact, we could do a quick character generator. You know, no big details. You know, so we can do we have a male or female character? We have a male character. And I'm going to roll a d10 for which race our character is. A 5. All right, so we actually have a bird folk. And let's go to Humblewood, and we're going to go back up. Contents. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A strig, an owl. So we have a male owl. And we can just drop it down here. Male strig. Who's probably, I mean, we had chaos, you know, as the ideal. Doesn't mean that that person has to, because the chaotic no limits is the expression of oneself. If you want to roll it, you can always roll it, or you can take a prompt. You know, do you want to do something more if this person, you know, we were using the mortgage distribution. Sure, let's 44. Chaotic good. That works out. Chaotic good male strig. Level doesn't really matter. You're going to apply whatever stat blocks you want. You want to make a full level 12 character or higher or lower? Go ahead and do so. I'm not worried about feats, or I'm not worried about the mechanics. I want to get to know the character more. We have the core. Now let's put the outline around it. Now for the background. Well, we have someone who could be wind touched in his own way. Could be a bandit defector also. That just happened, you know, ends up quitting. Could be something, the third one was grounded. You could also be grounded. So we have 3 backgrounds that are Humblewood backgrounds. We're going to add that to the 18 that we have out of the player's handbook. So I'm going to roll a 21-sided die. And let's find out what background our NPC has. And the background can also help play into storytelling, making connections, or just understanding the character better, that you may never tell. You may never tell your players that he is a... We rolled a 6. That he is an entertainer gladiator. Teaching people how to tumble? Hello, everyone. This stuff writes itself. This absolutely works out fantastically. Got to crash, need to do laundry before work. All right, Derek, thank you for hanging out with us tonight. X, Y, gladiator. Now, for our class and subclass, we're going to roll it, and if we get Bard, we'll use the Humblewood Bard. If we get Cleric, there's 2 domain clerics that will, 2 cleric domains, I should say, that we can roll into. Or if we get Fighter, then we'll use the Humblewood Fighter. So D12. We rolled a 1, a Barbarian. This is a very interesting character. This might even just be the 5th person. Is like the someone else who follows him around here. And now as a Barbarian, we rolled even a Totem Warrior Barbarian. Barbarians don't get any features, and I'm not too worried about the height and weight. That's stuff that we can generate, but it's not, you know, being 5'3" or 5'5" isn't going to make a huge roleplay difference. And so here's a good basic stat line that can act as the the container for the core of the character we've already generated. And so we rolled that we have an owl who fell in love with a raccoon. Aww. So let's see. This person needs a name. We have an owl barbarian. By the way, the owls play very well into barbarian stats in Humblewood. I'm looking for... Ah, okay. There we go. Hopefully you all in chat can see where I'm drawing inspiration here. So we've just generated Zevrik Ekov. Or Ekov. Zevrik Ekov. A male Strig barbarian. And I guess, you know what? Strig actually have 2 different builds, if I recall correctly. So I reckon we can take a look real quick. So strength is by 2. And then we can either be a stout Strig or a swift Strig. So I'm going to roll D10 and we'll do odds is stout, evens is swift. Either way, this makes for a fantastic barbarian. Evens, we have a swift Strig. This is probably also why he was put into the lookout position after our player character, Rena, here fled. All right, so we have... we have an NPC that can be an integral part of the campaign. This could be a quest giver, someone who just pops up here and there. You know, while they're doing their duty, goes and looks out for Rena, passes along messages, informs Rena of, yeah, hey, what's been going on in the bandit gang? And now we can do something similar. We can do something similar with the villain of the story. And let's take a look at what our villain prompts were. So we have Destro, someone back home, a friend or family member who disagrees with his lifestyle choice of like living on the ground. Of course, that was... you know, the fear's keeping him from going back up. Not that he dislikes his family or something like that, but for many bird folk, it's seen as a kind of a taboo, or you're socially, like, you're not a proper bird folk because you live amongst the animals on the ground. Someone back home, friend or family member, who disagrees with his lifestyle choice, or was the one who literally or metaphorically pushed him over the edge and led him to fleeing his perch. I think in the storytelling we're doing is we're weaving this stuff tighter and tighter together. We know who did it. It was Rena. Probably not a relation because we have a raccoon to a crow, especially as there's not been any sort of other follow-up ideas. But we can keep in mind, so maybe the villain could be someone back home who's a influential community member. Now, Ome, other wind-touched that feel overshadowed or jealous. Ambitious religious members, an assassin who wants to make a name for him or herself. We may also have an elemental or fiendish enemy, birdfolk jealous of her powers and resentful that they were given to the lowest of the low. Now, where this could come into play then is... well, number one, I mean, if someone is ensconced in a faith, you're going to have enemies abound. People who want that position, people who are against your faith. There's no end to it. What this could be, however, what if Destro's family member is someone in the clergy and therefore is actually ends up being a rather bitter enemy to this to Ome the Wind Touched, because it has gone to a base creature and the family member already disapproves of the humble folk who live, you know, in the muck and grass down below. We have an interesting link now that would have a villain that automatically would touch onto 2 of the 4 characters. And what that would mean is Rena, as kind of the yin, would have more of a direct, influential, friendly NPC. And of course, Destro's caught in the middle here. But Destro and Ome could be connected by this kind of... oh shoot, what was the... It was the judge's name in the Disney version of Hunchback of Notre Dame. Frollo, I believe, was Frollo. So we might have a Frollo-style enemy here. You know, someone who's not, yes, I'm a demon and I'm going to take the souls of everyone on the continent. Which is definitely a compelling adventure. You probably don't want that to happen. But here in Humblewood, we might actually be dealing with something a lot more closer to home. So Rena might get a pass on having the direct villain. Not that, I mean, look, the bandit gang might have gone to try and raid this influential family member's house, you know, steal their things. So, you know, tangentially, not a primary tie-in, but maybe secondary, or dare I say tertiary. And lastly, we have Reapador, another warlock, tasked by the same patron in measuring each to determine who gets the magic and whose soul is consumed. A rival salesperson who is out to crush the competition, maybe literally if that person is the opposing warlock. I think we have our villain that everyone in the party can have some kind of a connection to. We have a person in this faith who has made a pact with the same fiend that Reapador has and serves that mistress instead, yet represents as if being a beneficent member of another church, which of course could give Reapador, you know, you have that final moment, you know, like, at least I never hid, I never lied to people about my deal. I deal with a lot of things and a lot of people, you know, and I've always been up front that, yes, you know, I've had this. And you know, the wind's blowing, maybe there's like the forest is on fire and they're on a platform, you know, they're back on the home perch, you know, but you've lied this whole time, trying to hide your pact. You know, our patron, or matron if you prefer, you know, should absolutely disown you for that. Yeah, you might have done more mean stuff. You might have picked on more people than I have. But I haven't tried to hide the fact that I made a deal and I've honored it every step of the way, instead of conniving against it. Patooey. I think that's a very dramatic moment. And we've done a very good job now of, I mean, we can still randomly roll through this to make things work. However, occupation and history, we have, so this is going to be Destro's parent, you know, sort of generic. Destro's parent, who is an affluent member in the community and very righteous about faith, but in secret has made a pact with the same fiend as Reaper. Now, if you don't tell your players this, can you imagine playing this through for 6 months or something, and this lore bomb gets dropped on them? You know, so this is a campaign that's exploring connections, and is also exploring things like, you know, the honesty and the realization of self. So, but in secret, has made a pact at the same fiend as Reapador, pitting them as enemies, while trying to earn ever more money, respect, and favor in the bird community. Wow. Railing against the local wind-touched hedgehog. They're called hedges, but, you know. Hello! And you know what? Our players wrote this villain for us. All we had to do was just come down here and take a look at the information, distill a little bit of essence from the character sheets. And I think we have a very compelling villain. Now, our adventuring villain, let's go to the DMG here. And we are going to get some details about this villain. So, let's roll a 20. 11. A humanoid conqueror. Okay. Wants to take over the bird society or the like. Probably, or even something else. Gain control of the people, gain political clout, religious clout, monetary clout, and then maybe make a move to, to expand territory or to drive out those humble folk. They're poisoning our trees. They live at the roots. They have to be driven, and so trying to bring a war down to the humble folk down below. But we'll see. We still have an objective and a scheme to roll up. So we're gonna roll ahead. Whoop, I went too far, everyone. Our villain scheme. I'm gonna roll a d8. We rolled a 7. Revenge. Uh-oh. And what kind of revenge? I'm gonna roll a d4. We rolled a 4. Retrieve stolen property and punish the thief. The thief being the bandit gang made of humble folk raccoons, or others, being the humble folk that came up to the perch, stole something important, and they have to pay. And they're going to pay with their lives. My God, I hope you all, does this excite you? Does this energize you? Is this interesting, fascinating how all of this seems to come together? And mind you, everything is based on random prompts, and yet look at the organic synergy that exists between all these points of data. Now, what about our scheme? Or what's our method for doing this? Hi, yes. Oh, thank you. That's a tail. Our method, I'm going to roll a d20. Rolled an 18. Torture. Hey, TJ, welcome. Yeah, hey, thanks for stopping on. Look, even if any of you out there just stop in for, a minute and you say hi, it's eyeballs on the stream and it's chat activity, which ultimately, those are the metrics Twitch looks after. But you know what? I just like knowing that you stopped in and said howdy do. Now, what kind of torture are we talking about here? Let's roll a d6. 3. Branding. So we're capturing and branding bandits, because if you set them back out into the world, they're going to tell people that this bird tribe means business, and that other bandits are going to see the marks that are being branded. So they're bandits. This guy's basically the Phantom. Well, cut your tail off. Here it goes. It's like, thwack, 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 thwack. Ready? And timber. But the Phantom wasn't villainous? Question mark? Yeah. I mean, this person is capturing like people down below, and whether or not they're actually a bandit, he thinks that they are, and is just capturing and branding the humble folk, who are the hedgehogs and the deer and the forest floor dwellers in the Humblewood setting, and branding them, and you will tell them that we're going to to find you, and when our campaign begins, at the next summer, anyone found with a brand, as our army sweeps through the woods, will be put to the sword. So flee while you can, find new hovels, exploit other people and resources, for we will show you no mercy. Well, it might start with bandits, like provable bandits, and then, of course, as things go, you start getting into ones that you're pretty sure are bandits, and then ones that, you know, are reported to be bandits, and of course they're going to deny it, but who would report someone else for being a bandit if they're not a bandit? And then it just starts to turn into, well, you know what? Anyone here is a potential bandit. And so we really should start branding everyone. It can only escalate, especially if you've made a pact with a fiend and are gaining power, and you're using that power to assert yourself in a society in a portion of the woods and whatnot. Now, what is an interesting weakness that we have? Let's roll a d8. 5. The villain is destroyed if it speaks its true name. You may say, well, hold on, so this is actually like the father or mother of one of the player characters. Well, if we're saying that there is a pact with a fiend involved, what if that pact is simply accelerating these thoughts that this parent has had and is now sort of bolstered them to action? What if, by speaking the name of the fiend, that might actually summon the fiend that can then be defeated, and therefore the parent doesn't have to get murked necessarily? I mean, look, you should be open for it. If you're setting this up as a DM, then you might have to deal with the party saying, you know what, Destro? Your ma or pa has got to go. Or, you know, the true devil within, you speak the name to invoke the fiend, to get it to manifest outside of the parent, and you put the fiend down, and thereby you save the parent, who may have harbored these thoughts but never acted on them. But then the parent is safe instead of being destroyed that way, with the devil or the demon or Yugoloth still living, by fleeing the mortal body. That's how I ended up eating 120 chicken nuggets in 30 minutes. Ooh, there's a story. Rump Elk Stalt Skyn. Roomba store scam. Hey, and you know what? That could be a big part of the quest. Find the true name of the devil. In fact, even our merchant who has made a pact, a fiendish pact, may be interested in this as well. Though for other reasons. Like, I'm gonna find it and I'm gonna increase my contract, because I'm very contractual. I'm a merchant. I abide by this. You know, so the one person just using it and writing it along, this person, the merchant part of this yin-yang sort of manifestation of a patron or matron is but we'll remember that for our adventure part here in just a little bit. All right, so what's a notable part of our appearance? Roll a d20. 13. Bald. We're a bird folk. That doesn't mean that we can't lose feathers on our heads, on our arms, right? The bird folk in Humblewood have beautiful feathers coming off their arms. Now, what about the abilities? What's a high and a low ability for this NPC? We rolled 1 and 1. So strength is high and strength is low. I'm going to re-roll one of those. 4. High strength, low intelligence. There's a common disease that causes cockatoos to lose all their feathers here in Australia. Oh. Is it just to lose feathers, or is it actually kind of like a deadly thing and that's a symptom of it? Or is it just like an allergy where their feathers sort of just flee their bodies? And is it treatable? But hey, let's draw on real life, everyone. We're talking about bird folk. There's a disease or an allergy or a parasite, you know, like because you pull your feathers out because it's a flea or something or a mite. Could just be genetic in this case. You know, do we have a bald eagle? That is bald. So thank you for that real world inspiration, TJ. You popped in just in time. Parrot defies doctors. Oh, yeah, look at that. So maybe this person wears a feather wig and dresses in robes. All the more reason to be a big bad evil guy, huh? Huh. Well, there we go. Look at that. Truth is stranger than fiction. That quote continues. It's a very good one by Mark Twain, by the way. I'd urge y'all to look into it. What is a talent that this villain has? 15. An expert cook. Oh, that could be it too. Yeah. So maybe by invoking the pact much more frequently than our Gerbine warlock, it singes the feathers. Now in Humblewood, fire is bad. Fire's like the big bad evil guy of this campaign setting. But yeah, so to cover up the fact that that this person has been invoking these fiendish powers and it's burning up their feathers. Yeah, that's a great idea, TJ. A mannerism of this character, 12. Prone to predictions of doom? Hello. Yellow, yellow, yellow. We have an this is the perfect storm, big bad evil guy. And it's not even the final boss, depending on how you want to look at it. How does this person interact with others? We rolled a 5. Curious. Are you a bandit? How can I maximize my influence? How can I maximize my money? Contemplative. Well, I mean, there's ponderous. That could be physical and or I'm pondering. Now, the useful knowledge that this person knows, again, we could fill it in. Maybe the person actually knows the true name. You know, already found it out. But is obviously, and is maybe if that's the case, the patron underestimated this warlock. The warlock found out the true name and is holding the patron, is like holding the gates to infernal magic open, because the father can invoke or the mother can invoke the true name of the demon. You know, is there was a bit of a blunder or a goof. And so that could lead to the burnout, like what you were talking about, TJ, where more power is flowing through this warlock than what our Gerbine is facing, because it's being forced to manifest more power. That would then make that the chain pact, or the familiar with the other, would in its own way be kind of a ride-along or even a partial manifestation of the patron that subtly is guiding the party to help. I mean, if the father dies or the mother dies, so what? To the demon. But is trying to figure this out. Hey, Alexandra, welcome. We are so Alexandra. We created 4 characters for the Humblewood player options. Tonight, we have taken information from all 4 character sheets and we have distilled it into a series of prompts for an adventure location, an important NPC, a villain, and this like a moral theme to the story. We have made our NPC, and now we're making our villain. All right, let's figure out the ideal of this villain. We rolled 3 and 1. Lawful community. Again, everyone, this story writes itself. And oh my gosh, here's the kicker. So he's this righteous authority, one that is invested in faith. You know what domain exists in Humblewood that we created? That the wind touched that he sees as a perverse mockery of birdfolk because it's a hedgehog? The community domain. The community domain. Was this meant to happen? Who are you? Where are you? My muse. Our muse. Where is our muse? What about our bond? We roll a 10. 3. Protective of colleagues or compatriots. Not family. That's a different prompt. And of course, this father and mother disowned their son that was pushed, but fell, and decided to live amongst the ground folk. Protective of colleagues or compatriots in this power grab. And lastly, our flaw or our secret. Derek was here. He went to bed, though. You missed him by about 15, 20 minutes, I think, TJ. Roll a d12. 4. Envies another creature's possessions or station. Yes. Yes. Ome, the wind-touched hedgehog. Oh, wow. This is so uncanny. Envies another creature's possessions or station. This is an amazing adventure villain. Oh my gosh, especially for our players. Because remember, our villain is the product of the players. None of this would have come about if we didn't have a friend or family member say, "Hey, here's my character sheet. Can you look it over and tell me what you think?" And then we take notes from it. This is amazing. I am so happy. I love it. Oh, that Derek is the muse? Well, I almost prompted him to give a mini lecture on the nature of evil. How about dropping that in the middle of a Humblewood workshop, huh? All right. Now, let's do another quick character, like an attribute style generation. We're gonna bring our we're gonna bring our character gen up. The race is gonna be based on a D. Well, we could roll a D10 if it's a father or mother directly. Not that we couldn't have had it in adoption. That could be compelling. And it works out anyway that it's going to be the same race as the player character. Oh, goodness. This is what happens. I didn't need that. Whoops. That's fine. So we have I needed the percentile, not the D10. 71. All right, so we have a male Corvum. who is lawful neutral. We do have a Frollo on our hands, don't we? The background, I'm going to roll a 21-sided die for that. We rolled a 12. 12 is a noble, a knight. Ah. So a holy knight of some kind, or the noble, like knight is a subset of noble, but again, someone who is influential, someone who is a mover and shaker, someone who can bring war to the people who live on the forest floor. Oh, this is... I'm getting like weird chills at just how perfect this is. If any of you play Humblewood and you use any of this for inspiration, I hope you enjoy it. What is our class here? Are we gonna get cleric? That'd be something, huh? 5. Fighter. Hey, a fighter works as well because our Corvum was a fighter. Our Corvum was a fighter also. Oh, in fact, because our Corvum was a fighter, we have a knight fighter. We are using the Humblewood background, and so like son, like father, apparently. Scofflaw. This is eerie. I'm not going to worry about the height and weight and all that. Lawful neutral, male Corvum, fighter, Scofflaw. My gosh. Did you all just see what happened? Isn't it... I'm trying not to sound too hammy, but honestly, this is one of the most just inspirational and spot-on random number generation character development. We have an extremely compelling villain that touches on the setting and all 4 party members. Whew. Now, speaking of the setting, right, we distilled some information about the setting. So Destro comes from some populated area on the ground and is a perch from which he originated, which then is where the villain would be from. But we don't know where the ground village is. Ome has manifested some kind of a religious institution that she's a product of or that she's produced. Rena is from a place called Willow Chitter, and that there's a bandit camp somewhere in the world. And lastly, we have Reapador, and the major setting piece, because really he just travels a lot, would be that there's a prominent leather workshop or a tannery guild hall somewhere in the world that is very important to Reapador. So if we go to Humblewood, there is a section here that discusses some of the major areas that exist. And in their own way, would bring this map better to life. You know, so we see the roads and we see, we see the names, but what does that tell us? If you want to establish this inside of Humblewood, if we want to use the locales that exist, where would this be? What would be our setting pieces? Not that we can't traipse around everywhere. I mean, we're probably going to find a clue to the demon's name in the Scorched Grove, or an ash barrow, or something along those lines. But if you want to know more about the setting, kind of like what we did with Ravnica and Eberron, look, the Avium. The Avium is a college of magical arts with a... Sorry, this is... The free transmission of knowledge is one of the Avium's core principles, but the college nonetheless maintains a certain degree of secrecy regarding some of the more dangerous magical tomes in its safeguards. All races are welcome within the Avium's halls, although admittance is granted only by the will of the headmaster and a council of senior staff. Prospective students are tested for their skills, but also the motivation for their studies. The college takes great care to ensure its members will positively represent the legacy and reputation of the Avium out in the world. The Avium's right here. But we wouldn't have known that just from a map, because it's just a dot. It's not even a little building or something. Avium was once a living tree. So this is... I'm not going to be going through the minutia of the setting. But what we can do is use this as a prompt. In the south of the forest is a small perch known as Marshview, one of the most unconventional perches. Marshview is extremely disconnected from the goings-on of the wood. The location has basic amenities like shops and an inn. It's not a prime destination for travelers. Residents eye visitors with a mix of curiosity and suspicion. There's also this port city. Saltor's Port. Scorched Grove. Yeah, next sore. Well, you know what? We're going to go by this here. So looking at the prompts, we want some place that would have a good tanner's guild, and or a warehouse for leather products. You know, not that everything, again, has to take place in one location here. Whoops, that's the wrong... Here we go. Populated area in the ground. So I think Ome is going to roll through. We're going to end up picking up... We're going to end up picking up... Rena, Destro, Ome are going to get together. And Reapador is actually the one with the wagon. Because as we rolled it, he was the guild merchant. And so he gets the donkey and the wagon. All right, so looking... Dun, 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 we want a ground... We want a ground society that would be close enough to be threatened by these bird folk for bandits. And of course then thereby a place for bandits to hide. I'm kind of thinking that Marshview, the Marshview area, would be perfect for this. Because the bandits can hide in the Mockton Caverns or the forest. There's plenty of water for bandits, travelers, and for small societies. And of course, if I recall correctly, weeping willow trees do very well in watery areas. And so we could say that willow chitter is down here as well. And if we thought that Marshview was a small town, you should see the countryside of willow chitter. And then of course, you know, we can kind of like expose it with a, you know, like a drawing or something on here. And so what that would do then is that would have, if that's the case, then we have so that we have like someone at Salter's Port, who is a dissident birdfolk faction that that sort of broke away. Unless Marshview itself, which I'd have to go back and double check. I guess I can do that real quick here. Mock Fields. Meadowfen. Marshview. Small perch known as Marchview, one of the most unconventional perches, extremely disconnected. Oh, that's the one that's disconnected from the goings of the wood? Ah, so in this case, then we have the power play taking place to take over Marshview, which is then over the marshes, and that's obviously where every single bandit lives, and it must be expunged. This is also putting us on the closer side to where the Scorched Grove is, where this great Nemesis forest fire swept through called the Calamity that really upset the Humblewood area. And if we wanted to, I guess we could put it in Meadoween or the Winnowing Reach instead of Marshview. Though, of course, if we're playing off of the lore that Salter's Port was a big division between birdfolk, because who'd want to build on the ground or on the cliffside and then sail boats? Marshview could be more of the purist. We are birds. We build in the lofty trees. And that's where that group went. Meanwhile, Salter's Port might actually be... Salter's Port might be a ground location where a lot of the adventure takes place. Or having to pass by Marshview into the Mock Fields. Or again, the Mock Fields or the caverns are where the bandits are. Now, there is a place that says Bandit Fortress that is up here in the mountains. This is going to be like the bandit gang of all time in the Humblewood. The bandits that we're talking about are going to be more of a regional, like a smaller local group that wanted to raid those up on high to bring them down a peg or two, but also to get money and to go from there. I think this works very well. All right, so we have a setting. We have an NPC, and we have a villain. So all that is left is to sit down and to think about how do we want to bring this together? What would we want to do in the course of an adventure here in Humblewood? And that is partially going to be influenced by that last bit of information we distilled off our character sheets. What are some thematic storytelling elements that we want to include? And what about some morals that we want to explore? And I imagine if any of you watch the Tuesday game at least somewhat regularly, you would be able to take out one or two items that have been consistently presented in front of my players to turn and bop and boop and explore. Because that is the consistent underlying theme of the entire story. And if you have that, it acts as a wonderful lighthouse on the horizon that you can always walk towards. And you may stray back and forth a little bit, but you'll always be making forward progress to that beacon. All right, so let's take another break, everyone. All right. We'll take a break and come back, and when we do, let's build a story. We'll use milestones. We'll talk about thematic elements, and let's really have some fun building a Humblewood, like our own Humblewood adventure.